Right, so recently on this channel, we have spoke about multiple situations over on Book Talk, and the vast majority of them situations have also involved AI. And it seems like the AI controversies over on TikTok are not going to be stopping anytime soon, because there is a new situation that has received a lot of backlash. So basically what has happened here is that a bunch of Book Talk influencers have recently been doing a paid collaboration with an app or website called Character AI. From what I can tell, it's like an app where you can chat to these like AI characters and kind of write like a continuous story as you chat. And as you can imagine, people weren't happy with these advertisements, as apps like this can take away from authors' hard work and use it for themselves, for their own like business. I mean, of course, there's more to it than that. We are going to look at a bunch of like response videos to this, but I do just want to kind of show you an example of these videos that were being posted, like this advertisement. Now, it's worth saying here, like I said, a bunch of Book Talk influencers were promoting this app, right? I'm going to show two in particular here. These are just like the two biggest influencers I could find who promote this app, but there were like a few more as well. So these videos were posted by creators like Amina's Not Okay with 1.1 million followers, also Mariana's Reads with over 500,000 followers. Amina's video is still up on her page, but Mariana's has now been deleted. We do have a screen recording, but first let's show you a bit of Amina's video.
Reading the Mafia books is no longer enough. It's not cutting it. I need more. And by more, I mean character AI. Yeah! It's time for me to write myself in these Mafia stories, okay? I'm gonna become YN to the max. He's seated on the ground, bleeding out, and he's like, you don't have to look at me like that. I've had worse. Stop staring and grab the kit. This thing's not gonna stitch itself. And of course, we're gonna voice call. Hello? Grab the kit and walk to him with shaking hands. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It was supposed to be me.
His gaze flickers to your shaking hands as you bring the kit to him. A hint of concern flickers in his eye.
Yeah, I was the one who should have taken the bullet for you. It shouldn't have been you.
Don't apologize, he mutters. It's my job to protect you, not the other way around.
To Mafia.
Okay, so you get the point, right? It's an app where you have a conversation with a character and it basically writes out a story as you do it. Now, like I said before, Mariana's video has been deleted. It has been kind of like re-uploaded by an influencer called Patches Papercut, who also goes on to give her thoughts.
So, like, what if I told you you could create the ultimate enemies to lovers arc between you and your dream book boyfriend? I just discovered...
What if I told you, like, we have books that do that for us? But it gets better. Just wait.
I just discovered character AI scenes, and I've been doing exactly that. Now, whenever I'm in a reading slump, I remember character AI scenes feature lets you co-write stories and bring books and characters to life. A personal favorite element of these stories is role-playing different scenarios with a morally gray MMC of my choosing. My current favorite scene I have ongoing for quite some time is Summer Nights the Secret Vampire, where I find out that Kale Draco, my morally gray dragon rider, grumpy MMC, has been hiding the fact that he's a vampire from me.
And like I said, Patches Papercut then goes on to give her thoughts on these creators promoting this app.
And that's one of y'all's Book Talk's big three? Listen, I don't know this person. I'm just so confused as to how we have strayed so far away from the plot that now we have on Book Talk Book Talkers who are probably getting paid a good amount of money to promote AI generated stories based on characters from stories that they've already read. That to me is bananas, dude.
And then there was also authors coming out and calling out these videos. Like, for example, there's an author called Rachel Gillig. Now, if we actually look at Rachel's Goodreads page, she has a lot of very successful books. I mean, this one has over 500,000 reviews. And Rachel's video in this situation is like just some text on screen, so we'll have a read through. It says, reminder that if you see Book Talkers promoting character AI in quotations, enemies to lovers arc between you and your dream boyfriend, they are actively promoting theft from the very books they claim to support. Don't engage, starve the parasite, humans make art. Now, I would assume, based on the way that Rachel said this, like in quotations, enemies to lovers, you and your dream boyfriend, these are some phrases that Mariana said in her video. I would assume that this is directed at Mariana, but also at like everyone who is promoting this app. Now, to be fair, from what I have seen, and I definitely could have missed one, right? Because I don't know every single creator who has like promoted this app, right? But from what I've seen, Mariana is like one of the only people who's actually made a video kind of like addressing this. So we'll have a look here.
I'm not gonna act like I'm perfect because I simply am not. As you may or may not know, I just shared AI in one of my posts. And I truly was negligent and did not understand the harmful impact that could have on the writer, reader, and author space and artist space. I was uneducated. I did not take the time to educate myself more. And as a creator with a large following, that is my responsibility to do. I took what I thought the app was at surface level and went with it. Should I have researched more? Absolutely.
And then Mariana goes on to respond to people who would say that she should have known.
There are going to be plenty of people, rightfully so, that think she just should have known. I don't care what she has to say. She just should have known. She should have known. I should have known, and I didn't. So if that's how you feel, that's okay. That's okay. Like, you don't need to be around me. I'm sure that video was for enough people to say that leaves an unsavory taste in my mouth. I want no part of that. That's fine. I support you. Protect your peace.
And then Mariana ends the video by apologizing.
I'm so sorry for those who I've hurt and affected along the way. Again, that was never my intention. Really grateful though that this community, for the most part, did take the time to educate me and let me know what's going on so that I could see that, like, so that I could own my shit. Because sometimes that's just all it is. Sometimes people just are stupid. Will everyone be happy with this? No. Will so many people still call me a sellout? Yes, absolutely. Will people say that I should have known better so it doesn't matter? Yes. Will people bring up every single thing I've done under the sun as reasons why you shouldn't like me? Yes. And I apologize if I have made you feel uncomfortable or me being a creator has caused you harm. That's never been my intention.
And now it was at this point that another author came out to speak about this situation, but unlike Rachel that we spoke about earlier, this author wasn't kind of speaking out against these videos that had been posted, but more so speaking out against the people who had a problem with these videos being posted. So the author is Jessa Hastings, who is also a very successful author, as we can see by some of her books. I mean, 230,000 reviews, 116,000 reviews, some very well-known books. Now, Jessa spoke about this on her Instagram story, and there's quite a few slides to get through, so let's take a look. Last thing I'll say about it, everyone who's giving that creator shit for using AI, you better be so fucking above reproach in your own self-righteous little lives. I mean, like, you better have never used autocorrect and predictive text, better have face unlocking turned off on your phone, fingerprint scanning too, and you sure as shit better not be using Siri or Alexa. You better not purchase anything through a targeted ad or product recommendation. You definitely cannot have ever interacted with a chatbot or an online store before, and I hope your spam filter's off. And you better not have tabbed a smart reply in Gmail. Hope your grammar's perfect because no Grammarly for you either. I also hope you have never watched anything Netflix has recommended you. And I know for sure you're not listening to Discover Weekly on Spotify. The next slide is very similar, giving a bunch more examples like the TikTok For You page and using Google Maps or Waze, using a Ring camera, a lot of stuff like this. And then it goes on to say, so you and your AI high horse, I hope to God your hands are well clean of all the above, or else you're nothing but a giant hypocrite and a bit of a prick, bye. And when these stories were posted, it kind of just sparked all the response videos back up yet again. The vast majority of people just bringing up the differences from Jess's examples that she's giving in her stories compared to the actual topic that we were talking about before. For example, this video by a creator called Amanda Please.
Just a couple of examples, albeit with some very strong language, of things that you consider to be AI that you think makes people a hypocrite. So let's go through some of them. Gmail responses. Your Gmail is learning from your responses. It is not taking everybody else's responses that they've ever done to an email and saying, hey, you should use these. It is looking at the words that you normally use to reply to people. It is seeing what's in the email, saying, hey, this is the most likely set of words that you would use next. Same with your iPhone's predictive text. And it learns over time how you text, how you respond. And so the more time that you spend with that product, the better it gets at predicting what you would write. Not making predictions based on other people's writing, it's making predictions based on yours. And that is the difference to me.
Amanda then goes on to respond to a few more examples like Apple Maps.
Apple Maps, Waze, Google Maps all use location data that you opt in to turn on. You opt in to share your location data when you download these apps, when you use these apps the very first time. It is in the terms and conditions. You have to allow it to use your location. Sometimes you're allowing it to use your location in the background. And so as you're moving through traffic, if it notices a lot of cars in a certain area, a lot of phones, we're going 70 miles per hour and now they're all going 45, it's going to show you that block of traffic. And then it's going to do a little bit of mental math, a little bit of computer math to say, hey, it's going to take you 15 extra minutes to get somewhere now. That's useful. That's a helpful tool. And you opted in to giving that data to those apps. It is not just taking that data because it wants to, because you bought the phone, etc. You have to opt in.
And then Amanda goes on to say that authors aren't opting into generative AI, so it's very different to like maps, for example.
Nobody is opting into generative AI. In fact, artists are fully opting out, or they want to. And they don't have the means to, because these companies are not allowing artists to opt out. It is threatening their jobs. Google Maps, Apple Maps, using your location to show somebody that it's going to take them 15 extra minutes to get to work that morning because there was a crash, is not taking anybody's job. It is just a useful tool being made more useful with the use of AI. And yes, that is AI. But it's not the kind of AI that is ruining people's lives, that is ruining artists' lives.
Now, Amanda goes through some more examples that Jessa used, but it's kind of more of the same thing, right? It's kind of pointing out the differences. The difference between an app using AI to know what you would do personally or get information from you personally if you've opted into, like your location, to be useful, compared to like a generative AI app that we spoke about earlier that could be stealing from authors who didn't opt into any generative AI stuff. Now, a bunch more creators also responded to Jessa, like for example, Reading Tyler made a video.
Jessa Hastings, your books were never on my TBR, and now they never will be. How can you, as a very popular and celebrated author, whose very popular romance series is probably being fed to generative AI systems as we speak, not going to know the difference between generative AI and predictive AI? Because I know you didn't just call using generative AI the same as using autocorrect or Siri or a Roomba. I suggest you do some research and ask your fellow authors how they feel about generative AI. Then come back and tell us if you still think we're horrible people for calling out big book talk creators for promoting generative AI. Generative AI is all stolen, babe. It is stealing your stuff, it is stealing my stuff, it knows no bounds, because there are no regulations. So though I agree that some people went too far when it came to critiquing Mariana and other creators who were promoting generative AI, it is absolutely well within our rights to be calling them out.
Okay, also, I do just want to say, you might notice the video's kind of out of sync. It just is. Your screen's not messed up or anything like that. Now, after a bunch of people pointing out the differences between like generative AI and some of the examples that Jessa was giving, Jessa did end up posting a few more stories. And because I'm getting a little bit of pushback about generative AI versus assistive AI, I can see the point that these people are trying to make, but I think they're just trying to make a semantic distinction to avoid the broader point. Like, yeah, generative AI is a subset of AI, but it's still AI. The generative part doesn't zipper-dee-doo-dah it into an entirely separate moral category, even if you wanted to be in one. I'm pointing out the hypocrisy of these keyboard warriors stoning creators for using AI when we all benefit from AI daily. Again, whether that's predictive text, fraud detection, facial recognition, whatever, it's unavoidable. You are, just as I am, participating in an AI-augmented world. And if you think generative AI is the start of the AI job apocalypse, I'm sorry to tell you, that chicken already quietly flew the coop. Where was your outrage when factory line workers were replaced with robotic arms? And what about the welding robots replace human welders? What about warehouse and shipping prep staff who have all been replaced by automated cameras and sorting systems? Statistically, since the 1980s, somewhere between 4 to 5 million people have lost manufacturing jobs due to automation alone. So where was your outrage over that? You just didn't notice because it didn't draw or write stories or songs. Nobody cared when AI was quietly taking jobs from factory workers and delivery drivers and phone reps and warehouse staff and security guards and assistants. But now that it's skirting the edge of creative and white-collar jobs, suddenly now it's a moral emergency? Spare me. Assistive AI already wiped out millions of jobs. It just didn't look like ChatGPT. It looked like a worker getting laid off in Nebraska when a machine learned how to do his job twice as fast and without health insurance. My point is, this isn't about whether generative AI is technically different to assistive AI. It's about the self-righteousness of these people pretending they're so morally above it when they're not and they never have been. They just like having something to yell about. So unless you've opted out of every form of machine learning and smart automation, I don't want to hear a fucking word about it. The end, no notes. So yeah, one thing I do think is fair to point out here from some of these examples that Jessa is saying now, like with like warehouses, these robots replacing humans and whatnot, saying like people didn't care then. I think you have to add the context into it that the people that have a problem with AI stealing from authors are people who are like invested in books and their interest is books. So obviously when it affects their world, they're going to feel more of an impact. The same way I'm sure that people who work in warehouses were also concerned when like robots were replacing jobs, right? And I mean, Jess has said it herself in a statement, right? I mean, statistically, since the 1980s, somewhere between 4 to 5 million people have lost manufacturing jobs due to automation alone. I think that is like a good point why people are against this. And yeah, they might have not noticed it before or like researched into it before, but now it is affecting their world, their interests. Obviously, they're going to know a lot more about it now because it's affecting something that they care about. But yeah, I think it's fair to say, clearly some very different opinions among this situation. And I would love to know your opinion in the comment section down below on everything that we spoke about in today's video. Let me know who you agree with, who you disagree with, obviously in a respectful way, but give me your thoughts in the comment section down below on everything that we spoke about and all the points that we have heard. And yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please do leave a like on it, subscribe if you are new. Also, if you're interested in some other content, me and Emily have a channel where we play games, react to reality shows, stuff like that. That's always linked in the description. Also, there's going to be a link in the description to donate to Encephalitis International. Next month, we're having a charity football game raising money for Encephalitis International. So if you do have some money to spare and you want to donate, that's linked in the description. And until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, goodbye.